Hi guys, this is Shelly with Sew Shelly Quilts, and I've promised a threading video. This may be broken into a couple of them, and we're on the BERNINA 880. This would be exactly the same for the BERNINA 830, and so I want to talk to you about how these machines are threaded correctly, and specifically then we're going to talk about threading monofilament or extremely thin thread like the 100 weight Invisifil that I was enjoying, or the 80 weight Deco Bob, some of those really thin threads. So that's what we're going to specifically discuss. The first thing you have to remember with an 8 series is that the threads feed up and they have to go through the thread guides. They don't come straight from the thread into the machine. And then the second thing is to initiate the threading cycle or sequence. You can either hold a thread and have it touch this silver trigger right here by holding the thread in the V, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Or you could just initiate the threading sequence by just touching the button. Listen. Did you hear that noise? That was the tensioning opening. And so then it is ready to thread, and you can put the thread through the system without using the sequence over here. So either or, the point being, your thread cannot go into the whole system without this light being on. And then when the light is on, you push it, and the threads are put into the take-up lever. So here I've got an assistant cameraman who's going to help. I want to show you how to open the door. On the 8 series, this is important for you guys to know. You get a tool, a multi-purpose tool in the box, and one of the purposes is to open your door. You just put this in, you push to the right, and that allows it to open on these hinges. When you're pushing, all you're doing is flexing the bar, which releases it from those points. You'll open it many times if ever you can't see your thread down here. In this area, let's say it just gets popped up, then you can open the door and cut the thread and pull it out from right here. We don't pull our threads backwards. So I'm going to thread this with the door open, and I'm going to do that the first time by holding my thread, 2 hands. I hold it taut, and I'll initiate the threading sequence by putting it into this V. And you can hear and see now that white light turned on. See to the bottom left under that take-up lever, and the take-up lever went down. It bowed its head. I'm not going to let go with my right hand. I'm going to come across, and if you look down on the top right here, you'll see a little tension guide. And if you have 2 threads, one goes in front, one goes in back. With 1 thread, I like to lay it on the top and pull it forward, and then we just let the thread drop. And as soon as I get it down here behind the needle, zoom in right here for me, and you'll see there's 2 little pins, and my thread went behind both of these to the from right to left. And so now I am ready to put it into the threader. So for normal use, you just put it through the lips, straight back, over the top, and this is important to be sure and pull it straight down into this little groove, and then I'll just cut it off. And now put your camera right here, and we'll punch the button, and the needle threader is going to pop down, and fully automatic. Oops, I must have told it it's doing something. It didn't come down and thread, did it? Just a minute and I'll see what's going on. Okay guys, I had still told the machine I had a specialty needle in, so the threader was not swinging down. I won't go into how that was, but now it's ready to go. So my white light is on. That brings the threader down, and I'm ready to put the thread in through these lips, up and over the top, straight down into the groove, and then here come to the front. I'm going to push the white button, And that needle threader is going to swing down and thread the needle. There we go. It's threaded. Now it's ready for, that was just for regular thread, regular threading. Now I'm going to show you another trick. So when you use a specialty thread, like I was talking about, this really thin, zoom in and see how thin this thread is. Oops. Pause 1 second. There we go. All right, so that is so thin. That is 100-weight. Here is a piece of 40-weight beside it, and you'll see there's a big difference here. This is the 100-weight, this is the 40-weight. So in order to thread the 100-weight, or in a minute we're going to look at this exactly clear, this really tiny, tiny clear thread. Can you see that shining? Those are more difficult, but not if you know how. So we're going to show you how. So the way I like to do this, I will take a second spool of thread. So I'm going to thread my 100-weight right here, and I'm going to put it up through the thread guide. And you'll see that I still have my red isocord, my heavier thread. And I'm going to grab both of those as if they were one. And I'm going to go through the threading cycle. There, that triggered the white light. And I'm holding these together as one when I put them into the machine. And the density of this thicker thread helped it fit into the tensioning inside. So now that I'm ready to actually thread the needle, I can cut the red, the heavier thread, go ahead and pull it on through the whole system. And here is the extra special sneaky trick. When you look behind these lips on the threader, there's a little peg. There's a little plastic peg right there. So I'm going to pull my really thin thread through the lips, but I'm going to go down and behind that peg and then up and over the cutter. So that thread is not going across in front of the peg, it's been down and behind. And now if you'll watch, this really thin thread is going to get threaded just as if it were normal. Ah! Look at that. Let me do it again without worrying about where the camera is. Camera guy, you get over here. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. I must have missed all of my points, so I'm not going to worry about my hand in the way of the camera, but just know I put the thread behind that peg. So now watch. Come around here and watch, and it will go into the threader. So right here. And there it is, perfect through the eye of the needle. It's so thin you can hardly see it, but it's there. And so that is how you thread these really thin threads, is going down and below. So one last trick and then we're done for today. So this was a cross-wound spool, and those are happy to come up off of the top. But a straight stack spool like this bottom line or this monofilament is what we're going to play with, and these are all straight stacked. These prefer to come off the side of the spool while the spool turns. Now on the 8 series, with some of those styles of thread, if they're heavy enough, you put them here. You thread it through this little tiny hole. I can't do this with a monofilament. Let me do it just with a heavier thread and pretend this was straight stack, guys, just so that you see you have this tiny little hole. And so when it's through there and goes up, look, the spool spins and it comes off from the side. Well, that's great with a thread that has a little bit of weight to it. But this thin monopoly is not going to be that happy with that extra tensioning. So there is a accessory that you can get. They're very inexpensive. And this is a thread holder. It's a Bernina accessory. And it's got a little divot that points up. The other side is smooth. So you put the little tiny divot pointing up. And you put this just on your spool pin. and it's solid, and you've got that up. And now I can put a spool of thread, the little pin holds it, and it's spinning and the thread's coming off the side. So I'll put it into the thread guide. Now with this monofilament, for sure, I need this extra thread, just the heavy one, just like we used for that thin Invisifil. So now here's the threading trick. I have both threads, the monofilament and the heavier one, and I'm going to hold them as if they were one. I'm going to pause right here until the white light is on. See over there on my left, the white light came on. And now I'm going to hold, bring that across behind the tensioning and just let it drop. I'm putting it behind the needle right here. They're both behind. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the red thread and have it pull. I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to take the monofilament, just like I did before, put it behind that, did I cut both of those? Dadgummit. Alright, I'm going to put it behind, in the lips, and behind that little peg. So I'm going to do it and up and over. So I went through the lips, behind the peg, over and cut. And so now I'm going to push the threader and you'll see where it's going to put that into the tensioning system. I mean into the needle. Ta-da! Now believe it or not, that monofilament is through the eye of the needle. Look right here. Let me catch it for you so you can see. It's right there. See that? Ready to sew. Can you tell? So that is the trick. Is have two threads. Make sure that you do not move past this position until that white light is on, so that your tension is open, your thing is down, and then when you move across, you've got that heavier thread. You cut the heavier one away and then just go ahead and put it behind that peg, and you will be tickled to death with how smoothly this runs. Now the next and last question y'all are going to ask me is, what do I put in the bobbin? And I put in the bobbin anything I want. So if I want a heavy thread on the back, then I put this has got isocord that would stitch beautifully. Let me grab something, I'll be right back. Isocord would stitch gorgeous. Earlier today I was showing you guys how I was ditching with monofilament, with the 100 weight Invisifil. And so that's when I promised I would show you this. This has been ditched. That Invisifil has already been stitched. You cannot even see that. It's so tiny. But on the back of this one, I wanted it to show, so I just used Aurifil. So there's a nice 50 weight Aurifil, and it made a gorgeous stitch. So this is why you want to learn how to use these invisible threads, because I like to ditch, but I don't like those stitches to show, and it does not show at all. And it didn't break once. I just happily stitched. So you can use anything you want in the bobbin. I used Aurifil. I could have used the same thread. I do that often. The Invisifil top and bottom, no problem. Or the monofilament top and bottom, no problem. Depends on what you want your back to look like. So, that's that. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, assistant. I appreciate your help. And this is Shelly with Sew Shelly Quilts. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube or like me on Facebook, and then I will be able to see you on the internet anytime. Bye now.